Let's imagine a man named Steve. Steve was a brilliant businessman at the beginning of 1960s. However, when he was just starting his career, he made a mistake that led to many unwanted consequences. Well, Steve started analyzing the situation and understood how that mistake and the knowledge received from it can develop his work and prevent certain mistakes in the future. So he wrote everything down in his notebook and used it in business with wisdom. Well, we can see him now as an old man with a kind of mischievous smile playing chess with his grandson named Frank. Frank also wanted to do business, however, in a bit different field than his grandpa, as he wanted to do everything on his own. Well, Steve, as a loving grandpa, gave him a notebook with his experience in it. And Frank did start his own business, however, he neglected the experience of his grandpa, as he thought that now is a modern world, it is too progressive for such things. Doesn't it remind you of something? And well, what do you think happened to Frank? He repeated the mistake of his grandpa, and we all may think like, oh, that is so dumb, like literally his grandpa was a businessman and his experience was written in it. Well, it is right, but don't people act like Frank did most of the time? They ignore history and even their own experience, causing stepping on the same wreck again and again. And what do they think afterwards? It is fate. Is poverty, repeated wars, economical problems, climate change, or other mistakes that are repeated fate? Or maybe is it just shifting responsibility to fate? Okay, what does the word fate mean? People say that it is something that was predicted, right? And well, I have the following question: are we robots? So let me explain. Everything that we can see in modern world is the result of people's choices. Were they robots? No, because they had free will that caused their choices. And I have free will as well. That means that I can do whatever I want now, but I choose what to do. So that means that we have certain responsibilities. Responsibilities for our own lives, first of all, for our country, planet, etc. And not learning from previous mistakes of history may cause that to be repeated. And it is certainly not fate. The most typical example is wars. So what do we think about wars in 21st century? How is it possible in modern and progressive world? Before the war, we couldn't even imagine something like that. We thought that our world is too modern and progressive. And we had the same mindset as Frank did, unfortunately. Now, from my childhood, I was always excited listening to old stories of my grandparents about the past. When I was older, I also enjoyed to read about the history of Ukraine, the world, and it was really regrettable to learn how people were dying for their freedom and independence. And really often I was questioning myself, why there are so many wars? Literally, even to the times after World War II. And we should mention Afghanistan, Syria, Georgia, and many others. And my motherland, Ukraine, beginning from 2014. And it was really hard to think about it. To be honest, I didn't really realize the reality of the war before the full-scale war in Ukraine, because our defenders have been fighting for our quiet lives since 2014. Then there was 21st February and bombs all over Ukraine. And after that, I started to analyze more carefully events in the world, like World War II. And I noticed how certain mistakes were repeated from century to century. As a topical example, we should talk about the policy of appeasement. Perhaps the best known example of policy of appeasement is the Munich Agreement, when leaders of Great Britain, France and Italy signed it, allowing Nazi Germany to annex the region of Czechoslovakia. And we all know that it ended with the beginning of World War II. And what about ignoring the horrible crimes of communism? Or the Japanese invasion of Manchuria? We have lots of examples in history, but there is only one conclusion: the policy of appeasement will have really bad consequences. And it is just a quick example of it. But the reality is, when we start using history as a powerful instrument, we can really change the world. It is not like we should know every single fact possible and be a walking encyclopedia. No, that would be strange, frankly speaking. You can imagine going to a random person and start talking about how ancient Egyptians were making beer in a unique way, and we should take that unique wisdom from them. That would be really weird. On the contrary, If we have a certain problem, you should understand that something like that was already in the past. And looking back on that experience may help us a lot. For example, it is not a secret that if you want to win the war, you should know your enemy and his tactics really well. And that tactics we can see in the history of their previous wars. If we have economical problems, lots of countries have already struggled with that. And the same is with destroyed buildings and consequences of war, even ecological problems. You see, now that Frank understood his mistakes, he learned from them, and that caused great development in his business. And well, at that time, Grandpa Steve was glad that his favorite grandson understood the lesson of life. And at the end, I want you to think about one quote I still remember that was said by Spanish-American philosopher George Yana. Those who cannot remember history are condemned to repeat it. Think about it. You can start by analyzing your own life, not global problems. And remember, history repeats itself only if you don't learn anything from it.